Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Calling All Titans, I'm going to be ranking the Titans Event Kit additions by their level of intrigue and excitement. I've mentioned before that I hate ranking things, even though I often feel compelled to do it, and I myself am drawn to other people's rankings. I really like the challenge, but I hate the process. The higher the number, the harder it is to be internally consistent with your criteria. So it's important for me to establish what this list is, and, more importantly, what it is not. This is not a list by which I would draft Titans. My number one Titan would not necessarily be my number one pick in a tournament at all times, since that decision would depend heavily on draft position, player count, and the number of participants. This is also not a list of faction strengths combined with their new Titan. So what is this list? Quite simply, how excited am I for this Titan's existence? I base my ranking on 4 criteria: ease of entry, replayability of entry, value to the faction itself, and versatility for your partner factions. There are Titans with interesting abilities that may only work with their faction or even work against their faction, and I need to consider all of these factors. The discussion of these entries will remain at a high level. There will still be full-length Calling All Titans videos for every Titan who doesn't have one yet, but with the kit coming out this week, this seems like the right time to do this list. To make my list, I created 3 buckets for my gut reaction to the Titan and separated them accordingly. I ranked them within the bucket, then compared the edges of the categories to see if any would swap places. Some were really hard to place because I could talk myself in or out of liking them more. So now that you hopefully understand the context, let's get to the list. Number 16 is Mergicon, the Changerbot's Titan. I just find the 3 power underwhelming and have difficulty with its movement ability. There's a very funny story about this Titan, but it's not my place to say it, and if I ever do get permission to tell it, I probably would save it for the full-length video. Like the Changerbots themselves, I just find Mergicon to be a letdown, which of course makes sense considering how I felt after the first Michael Bay movie. 3 power is a nice floor, but a boring ceiling, and I'm just not that excited about Mergicon. It's sad, but if I had to summarize Mergicon in one word, it would be boring. Number 15 is Cthulhu of the Minions of Cthulhu. I've said before that I don't like the Minions of Cthulhu, but the Titan was a chance to change that. Unfortunately, Cthulhu seems to be doubling down on the ability of its star spawn, and that doesn't strike me as novel. It also restricts Cthulhu's benefit to the Cthulhu expansion only, because at this time, no one else uses madness. I do like that the power can increase on other turns, and Cthulhu does work well with its star spawn, but as I said, there isn't much novelty or intrigue. Number 14 is Spirit of the Forest. When we first introduced this Titan, I mentioned that I was on the fence about it. I like that it doesn't have to leave play, but I also don't like that it is immobile and you might be stuck with it. The Spirit of the Forest provides some value to the fairies, but the once per turn seems very limiting. However, enabling every Or ability would be too powerful, so maybe there's another ability that could have balanced it, like discarding a card to get both abilities. I actually consider Madness with the Spirit of the Forest to be overrated, not nearly as OP as people think. The Titan will need more help from other factions in order to move up on this list. Number 13 is the Arcane Protector, the Wizard Titan. In baseball, there's a type of prospect that gets described as the type of prospect who gets general managers fired. As in, the potential and the talent is there, but the execution fails consistently. And this is how I feel about the Arcane Protector. There are things to like. I love drawing cards, and I like the idea that he could have Blitzkrieg power when he comes into play, but the Titan just works against the Wizards in my opinion. The Wizard's strength is playing cards and depleting their hand, the opposite of what this Titan needs for maximum effect. I would expect to rely on either the power or the card draw, but not both. If I tried to increase its ranking, I feel like it would let me down, which is why it's so high on this list. Number 12 is the Kraken, of the Pirates. While I like both of its abilities, the power negation only really benefits the Pirates and other factions with mass destructions, cards that are pretty rare outside of the Pirates. The Kraken needs time in order to activate and isn't easily brought back out. Being able to persist one of your other minions is nice, but I just find the other abilities more appealing. The Kraken, at best, will help you every other base, but its extreme susceptibility to a clash hurts its ranking significantly. Number 11 is the Hill That Strolls of the Ignobles. This Titan is easy to bring out and easy to bring back, which is always good, and it provides a great boost to the Ignobles. However, while there is some versatility for factions that can exploit minion switching sides, this Titan isn't as general purpose as some of the others. Number 10 is Major Ursa. I like that the Titan can add 1 power per turn, but you have to keep bouncing the Titan around in order to gain it. Like with Cthulhu, this is an attempt to double down on the faction's previous strategy rather than complementing it in a novel way. Moving another minion is more versatile than the Madness effect, since you can either slow someone down on a base or send them into a Cub Scout. Number 9 is Very Large Boulder, who seems similar to Major Ursa and was admittedly very difficult to place. Very Large Boulder can gain 1 power per turn by staying put, and for some reason I really like that. As the boulder gets more and more powerful, you unlock the ability to destroy some very powerful minions. It's slow, but it doesn't ever really have to move unless you want it to. I can see the destruction backfiring if you're not careful, destroying your own minion, but this is easily avoided, and you likely only have yourself to blame. Number 8 is the Big Funny Giant of the Tricksters. As I mentioned in the full-length video, I really like the area control aspect of this Titan. I value the area control more than the power counters or the destruction, and I think Smash Up needs more of these types of cards. If you have a minion like Monster Tornado that can continually push minions off of your base, I can see this being very powerful. Not only do you gain the power per turn, but you force players to discard cards. Number 7 is Timebox of the Time Travelers. This Titan may take a few turns to come out, and barring something crazy, cannot be immediately replayed, but once it comes into play it provides 2 useful abilities. The extra minion play works well with the jumpers, and an extra action is always nice. The Time Travelers themselves don't benefit that much from the extra action, because 4 of their actions can help bring out Timebox, but other factions will certainly want the extra play. Number 6 is Moon 03 of the Super Spies. I love that this Titan can gain power on every turn, and I love that it can be used to look at any deck, particularly the base deck. Knowing what is coming can be really powerful, and you'd have an advantage no other player has. This is a new addition to the Spy dossier, and I really like that, and I see just about every faction benefiting from that. Moon 03 doesn't have that big punch you'd expect to break a base all at once, but given time, it will eventually do its part. Number 5 is the Ancient Lord of the Vampires. As much as I really don't want to like this Titan because of its entry criteria, it is a really good Titan. Played correctly, you can add at least 2 power per turn with the potential of a lot more, and even power on other players' turns. You can definitely add at least 1 power per turn, and I prefer power on minions to power on Titans, because all things being equal, minions break bases. Suddenly, Mad Monster Party doesn't look like a bad card, because each minion without a power counter now gets 2. Number 4 is the Creampuff Man of the Ghosts. There is so much to like about this card, from the power it brings, to its powerful talent, to the fact that it further incentivizes you to actually buy into the ghost paradigm of small hand sizes. This Titan may be either really easy or really hard to bring back out, depending on how you manage your hand, but I like the idea of being able to replay your strongest standard actions a second time. Combine them with the faction that auto-shuffles your deck, and you may be playing them 3 or 4 times, and that is great. Number 3 is Death on 6 Legs of the Giant Ants. Both Death on 6 Legs and Creampuff Man are so close to each other in their evaluation they can go either way. But I like how easy this Titan can come back into play, and the type of combos that re-entry can create. I think having an extra action play of any action, not just standard actions, slightly trumps replaying strong standard actions a second time. So there's only 2 Titans left, and we've reached the inevitable point in a closed list where revealing number 2 also reveals number 1. So as I'm needlessly dragging this out, let me just say that I'd be fine if you picked either. It's like naming the greatest video game of all time. I'm fine with you naming Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII, or Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Greatest, not favorite, these are 2 different things. These are the 3 most reoccurring games I see on lists, and all 3 are deserving, and I can't really fault you for preferring one over the other. But these other 2 titans just stood out to me from the very moment I saw them, so if you have a different 1-2 punch, I'd really like to know why. Granted, your criteria may be different from mine, and that's okay, but I'm still secretly going to hate you. Now that I've stalled sufficiently long enough, who is the runner-up? The Great Wolf Spirit of the Werewolves. As much as I love this titan, and I really, really love it, the majority of its value comes from its partner faction. For the werewolves, your teenage wolves get stronger, and you can play an extra action and draw a card, so with the right placement, you've recreated the Arcane Protector and Death on 6 legs. You could also give +2 power temporarily from the Great Wolf Spirit itself. But when I saw this titan, I immediately began to think about all the talents I love and the ability to replay all of them again. Not just one, all. No other titan, not even the Spirit of the Forest, had me thinking so critically about pairings with other factions. So why isn't this number 1? I tried really, really hard to make it have the top spot, but as ubiquitous as talents are, there are still some factions that don't use them, including all of the core set. I did a count once, but I lost that file somewhere. I believe it's less than 20% of the factions don't have talents, but that still hurts their versatility just enough to be the runner-up. And since I didn't expect the werewolves to get a titan anyway, this was the final straw. So yes, my number 1 titan is Dagon of the Innsmouth, a faction that I definitely expected to get a titan. In fact, if you asked me to pick 3 factions I knew would get one, this would be my second choice. This titan took a faction that many people hated and buried and turned them into a conversation starter. Easy to bring out, easy to bring back, an extra minion play on any base, a good source of power, Dagon does it all. He provides extreme value to the Innsmouth, solving all of their problems, while giving a talent that nearly every faction can enjoy. Sorry Kaiju, but you chose to be different. Minions break bases, and Dagon just immediately stands out from the pack, and that's why it deserves to be the top titan in terms of intrigue. Would I pick the Innsmouth in a titan tournament? If I think I can get one of my partner factions? Absolutely. And unless I can make that statement with confidence, Dagon shouldn't be number 1. But it is. So there is my ranking of the 16 titans in terms of intrigue and excitement. I'm sure your list will be different, so let me know about them in the comments. I definitely want to know who your number 1 is and why. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.